Pascal was a thinker who uniquely stood out in many ways from his contemporaries during the birth of modern philosophy. One of the primary ways in which he did stand out was that he didn't hold a very high view of human reason. While rationalists like Descartes or Spinoza or Leibniz saw human reason as the primary source and arbiter of knowledge, Pascal didn't think this was the case whatsoever. Now, his ultimate goal in pushing back against thinkers like Descartes was not to get people to completely exclude the use of reason. Rather, it was to warn them against solely relying on reason alone to find truth. And he did this by offering a few different arguments to try to demonstrate how limited and finite reason is as a faculty. There are many arguments that Pascal gives in his Pensées against reason to try to get his point across, but I want to focus on three of his main critiques. 1, human reason is not autonomous. 2, human reason is fallible. And 3, human reason is unjustifiably prioritized against other sources of knowledge. So let's dig into each one of these. First, human reason is not autonomous. What Pascal is arguing against here is a view that thinkers like Descartes held, who thought that human reason had the ability to rise above all internal and external influences and look at things objectively from its own vantage point. Pascal claims that this isn't the case because human reason is too deeply intertwined with other faculties and desires that we have as humans. He believes that a multitude of things influence how we reason itself, and these can be more obvious things like our own personal interests and desires, or they can be less obvious things like how we're feeling that day, are we in good health or not. In addition, he claims that our senses or our imagination, or whether or not a new piece of information appears to be an old or new way of thinking, all influence the way that we reason. And so to get his point across, try this thought experiment very quickly. Imagine you are on a jury and you're listening to a lawyer give a defense of his client who is accused of robbery and is being testified against by his wife who saw him come home with the stolen goods. Imagine that morning you're woken up by your wife of 30 years, who you love more dearly than anybody and who you trust more than anybody else. You guys have been struggling financially recently because somebody broke into your business and stole much of your inventory. However, it's your wife's love and support that has helped you get through this very rough time. Now, when she wakes you up, you feel a bit pessimistic because you have this nagging headache that makes it hard to focus and you're not looking forward to sitting in court. But you do your best to pay attention when the lawyer stands up to give his defense. And when he does, he's this scrawny, wiry, shabby-looking old man who's got a hunch in his back, and he exudes anything but confidence. And as he offers the defense, it comes out in this squeaky, annoying voice. Now imagine in a parallel universe, you attend this exact same trial and the exact same defense is given, but under a different set of circumstances. In this universe, you wake up alone and extremely depressed. You've been crying yourself to sleep every night because your wife of 30 years, who you loved and trusted more than anybody in the world, cheated on you and then left. But you try to shake off the morning gloom and you make yourself a cup of coffee to perk you up and you start walking down to the courthouse. As you walk down the street, somebody stops you and you turn around to see that they're offering you your wallet that you had absentmindedly dropped along the way. You open it up and see that none of its contents are missing, and this lightens your mood quite a bit. Things could have been much worse. And once you get to the courtroom and sit down, the lawyer giving the defense stands up, and he is a tall, handsome, well-put-together man who's built like a tank, and he has this booming, authoritative voice, and everything he declares with absolute certainty and confidence. Now, I'm hoping this thought experiment gets the intuition across that perhaps we aren't as objective in our reasoning as we would like to think we are. There are a countless number of factors, many that we can't even see, that influence how we use the faculty of reason itself. Anything from how the weather is that day, to how we're feeling, whether healthy or sick, to how much we currently trust women at the time, or how much faith we have in humanity as a whole. All of these things are going to factor into our ability to reason or reason well. And this is all that Pascal is trying to get across, that maybe our reasoning isn't as cold and calculated as we might want to think it is. Okay, point 2, reason is fallible. Pascal thought this was obviously true, given the fact that many people, through using reason, arrive at vastly different conclusions as to what is true. To bolster this point, he pulls from Montaigne, who points out that through reasoning, people can't even come to agree on what the ultimate end of reason itself is. Some claim that the ultimate end of reason is virtue. Others claim that it's in following one's nature. Others claim that it's in pleasure, while others claim it's in doing nothing. And Pascal is saying, wait, if reason isn't fallible, why is it that nobody universally agrees on anything? Of course, you could claim that you yourself reasoned correctly towards the truth, while others just simply used it wrong, but this seems pretty unfounded and comes off as arrogant. But maybe if we come to realize that reason is more fallible than we might like to think, we'll be less quickly to judge the conclusions that others come to. Okay, third and final point. Reason is unjustifiably prioritized over other sources of knowledge. Now, Pascal doesn't put this part of his critique as explicitly as I just did, but it's implicit in many of his arguments. For example, the fact that reason itself relies on first principles that cannot be demonstrated through reason alone should show us that reason obviously cannot be the only source of knowledge. Now, Pascal is by no means the first philosopher to point this out. For example, Aristotle in his Posterior Analytics 1.3 brings up this exact problem of demonstrating first principles. If you try to demonstrate first principles, you will either fall into, he claims, infinite regress or circular reasoning. And while many philosophers I know would have no problem admitting this to be true, it's interesting to note that it still seems we assign more epistemic value to knowledge gained through reason and not through other sources. But it's an interesting question to ask, why is this the case if the use of reason itself is not demonstrable through reason? What if we are able to claim to know something without being able to demonstrate it through reason? What if our inability to demonstrate it through reason doesn't necessitate the uncertainty of that piece of knowledge? It only proves that reason is very finite and limited. And for any of you out there more familiar with the philosophy of epistemology, you've probably noticed that these types of questions lie at the heart of internalist versus externalist accounts of knowledge and justification. But enough of all this philosophical jargon. Why does this matter to us today? Why are Pascal's critiques of reason important to us, if at all? I believe that even in our postmodern world today, there's still this modern intuition within many of us that reason is the primary path to knowledge. However, I also believe that too high a view of reason's abilities can lead us into an unwanted skepticism. If you're anything like me, there's probably at least one point in your life where you made a firm resolve to go out into the world and find the truth and take hold of it. And the way you thought you were going to do this is by gaining as much information as possible and sifting it through your reason so that you can discard what's untrue and lay hold of what is true. But if you're also anything like me, you probably hit a point where you became completely discouraged and absolutely befuddled because you came to realize just how much information is actually out there. There's a never-ending list of books you can read. There's a never-ending list of podcasts you can listen to. There's a never-ending amount of classes you can take or people on YouTube telling you how to think. But the scary part about it all is they're all disagreeing with each other. And it is so easy to give up your journey to the mountain of certainty and just leap into the valley of skepticism after encountering disagreement upon disagreement upon disagreement. It is easy to too quickly conclude after setting out on our journey that either truth does not exist, or if it does exist, I just can't come to know it. But what if there's another conclusion we can come to? What if the oceans of information are supposed to overwhelm us? What if they are supposed to show us just how finite and fallible and stupid we are? What if they're supposed to show us how dependent we are as creatures on something outside of ourselves in our search for truth? What if they are supposed to create in us a posture of humility where we say, God, if you are out there, I need your help to find the truth because I literally cannot find it on my own. I have prayed that prayer thousands of times, and I still pray it today. And all I want to do is to encourage anybody out there who is just overwhelmed by trying to think through it all. Pray to God. He is listening and He is faithful. Okay, so that's the end of this video. Last thing, I'm going to start including an email at the ends of my videos for you to reach out to if you need somebody to talk to. If you just have questions about philosophy, or you're doubting your faith, or you're a nihilistic atheist, or you're depressed and suicide, whatever it is, please reach out to me. I would love to try to help. I'd love to set up a phone call with you and get to know you and see what some next steps we can take. And I will do that for as long as I can. But until then, I hope you guys know that I love you. I'm praying for you. And I hope to see you on the road back home. Bye, guys.
Got me throwing up an SOS. Search something. I'm throwing up an SOS. Search something. Got me throwing up an SOS.